Being a chamber member is amazing, first off.
We love being members of the chamber.
Peyton Fun Ceramics has been a member of the chamber since the inception of the company. And we couldn't have grown to the level that we have without our chamber membership.
Our company and staff very much values the chamber relationship that we have and membership that we have. And relationship really is the right word. Our staff really talks about the relationship they've built.
The chamber provides a ton of resources, and it's a great way to get out there, network, get some business and learn a lot about the area and just business in general.
For me to have a presence here locally, the chamber helps me with that so much.
The chamber only really works based on relationships. And once you focus on developing relationships and not just promoting yourself, then everything starts to work a lot better.
This episode was recorded in February 2025. For updates, visit nrvrc.org. In this episode, we talk about funding options available to business owners, and we also discuss doing the research that sets your business up for success, including market studies, demographics, income reports, and more, with Leo Priddy, Economic Development Planning Specialist with the New River Valley Regional Commission. Let's get into the episode. Hey everybody, Alan Waters here, your Director of Marketing and Communications at the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce and your Business 101 series. Today I am joined by
Leo Priddy.
All right, Leo. So Leo is with the New River Valley Regional Commission. Tell us just a brief overview of what the Regional Commission is and kind of what you do and provide for our area.
Oh my goodness. So the New River Valley Regional Commission is a planning district commission, and we do a whole bunch of things. More directly, we support our localities, so our local governments with things like comprehensive plans. I specifically am the Economic Development Planning Specialist. I'm in charge of our Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. Lots of words. We call it the Regional Economic Strategy. What that means is quarterly, I'm bringing in a bunch of local leaders, local economic development organizations to figure out, hey, what are the challenges we're facing? What are our opportunities? And how are we actually moving forward to achieve those things?
Okay. And breaking that down, because like you said, it's a lot of words. All very professional sounding and give it all of that. But from a business perspective, as a prospective business owner or someone who's a business owner that's looking to move to Christiansburg, Blacksburg, Montgomery County, what have you, where does the Regional Commission come into play? Because it's not like something where a business owner is just walking in off the street to the Regional Commission.
Yeah, exactly. We're not necessarily a one-stop shop for businesses. Where we come in is, again, from that planning side. What I can tell you is from the planning side, there's so many resources available. That's what I'm hoping to share with all the businesses that are listening here. If you're listening to this episode or watching it, you're probably pretty resourceful to begin with, which is a great place to start. What's great is, from my perspective, it's understanding what do we have here in Montgomery County, the New River Valley? How are we making sure that those things are working as well as best as they can? Do they have shared goals? For example, small business support is a really big thing that a lot of our local governments have created specific positions for, making sure that they're supporting their small businesses. Just being able to have an understanding, what is the ecosystem? How do I actually use that to support me in my business? That's effectively where I come from in my role. Okay. And for those that haven't already watched, make sure you go back, watch the episode either with Miles, if you're going to be a Christiansburg-based business, watch the episode with Angie if you're a Blacksburg-based business, or watch both of them. That's totally fine. But we're going to be referencing some things that really you can go and talk to either of them about, and then they are able to get in touch with Leo, get in touch with the Regional Commission, and kind of build upon together. There's also the SBDC, which will be a future episode where you can talk to them if you're not a Christiansburg or a Blacksburg based. All of these organizations work hand in hand. It's not a me or you situation. So listen to those, make sure you've got that information. So we're going to focus a little bit
today and talking about the research element because one, that's what you do. But two, it's something that I feel like business owners don't necessarily factor in when they don't have an education based in business. Sometimes you have a great idea and it's like, oh, great. And that's perfectly fine. But you have to do more research to do a part of it. And so you've got some things that I've looked at here and I want to kind of make reference to. So these are reports that you're able to run. It's not something you can do for all businesses, but you're able to look at. It's things that research that business owners can do as well. Talk to me a little bit about why it's so important that businesses are actually looking at and doing the research first and foremost before they are signing the lease, before they're necessarily even doing the business plan.
It's a great question, and there's a lot to dive into there. Again, the thing to focus on is, are we making an informed decision? If you're deciding to, for example, I want to move to a downtown area. Let's say I see that storefront. That would be a great place to move into. My first question would be is, what is my client base? Do I even know what's the population there? Is the population specifically for my customer base in that area? For example, Blacksburg is a little bit more student-centric. It does have a diversity of population, but you'll see a lot of businesses move there if that college-age audience is specifically for them. Whereas Christiansburg, other areas in Montgomery County, you may have a different base that you're trying to focus on. That's one great place to even just look. And that information is all available online. If you want to say, what's the population look like in Christiansburg? What are the numbers? What am I working with? Those are things that either you can find, or again, if you have resources and connections to the right people, you're able to ask and find that information.
And one easy, not necessarily always easy, but a Google search away. I would really highly recommend for some of this research, if you're doing it on your own, that's when you're going to go back and look at some of these artificial intelligence models and see what they can help and what they can do and what they can provide. We've got a small business workshop that is on artificial intelligence. When this episode is coming out, that will likely have already passed, but that is information that you can find on our website under our small business workshops. So when you're looking and you're breaking that down, I'm going to walk through this as I'm going to use coffee shop because to provide backstory, I have history with coffee shop. Leo has history working with me as an advisor on that. So that's just the context we're going to go to. If I'm looking at a coffee shop, why is it I can't just go, oh, I'm going to open a coffee shop in Christiansburg and it's going to be on this corner? What are those pieces that we kind of talked about there of like the market and that I need to first be doing before saying this place, this location, whatnot?
Coffee shop is a great example. Let's go to the competitive landscape. And this is something that everybody can do from a geographical standpoint. If you're like, I want to put a coffee shop on this corner, do a quick Google search and say, okay, who's around me in this area? What are their coffee shops? If you're going to open right across the street from someone else, that may or may not be a great business decision for you. An interesting tidbit is with Starbucks and Dunkin', they actually will tend to go near areas where there are other coffee shops to be an additional customer base and say, hey, we actually want to pull from people that are maybe going to where you are, and instead you should come to us. But if they're doing that, another piece, and this is something I believe the SBDC may get to in their section, is having a very specific value proposition. So you have a very specific customer you're going after. But you have to understand what that competitive landscape looks like.
And it's something... So this is something that I've learned along the way, and I feel like a lot of people will ask and go, well, why is there a McDonald's and there a Burger King right next to one another? And there's a study that shows that basically what's happening is if you've got a McDonald's and a Burger King that are 5 miles apart, well, to the right side of that McDonald's, anyone that is going to be going there is likely going to go to that McDonald's. Anyone that is to the left of that Burger King is likely going to go to that Burger King. Anyone in between is going to be split. They're going to go to either one. When you actually move right next to that competitor, you kind of get that built in of, well, everyone to my right, everyone to my left, and you cut down on that middle part a little bit. But I think, like you said, it comes back to that value proposition. Look, we can look at Starbucks versus a local coffee shop, and the differences there are pretty drastic. I don't know that any of us can compete with the budget of what Starbucks has, but that doesn't mean that it's not still something that's viable. I'm going to point back to Christiansburg. If you're looking at a coffee shop, some of the things that we looked at the time is, all right, how many of those coffee shops are within a drivable area of those that are working in this location versus which of these are sit down, which of these are going to attract those that are actually going to walk in and stay here. How often do you want somebody walking in and staying all day? That's in theory a great thing, but if they're in there for one day, have bought a $2 cup of coffee and that's it, you've actually lost money along the way. So going to one of these reports, one of them is specifically the market potential report. Tell me a little bit about that kind of report and what you're looking for in that market potential.
So in that market potential report, what's great, and this comes from ArcGIS, it's able to pull certain business reports. And again, can't do it for every single business, but for example, Miles with Christiansburg, he said, hey, I just want to get a better idea of what does the landscape look like for all of Christiansburg. And I was able to at least provide a breakdown where it at least says by industry, here's what, the relative spending looks like. Here's some forecasted spending. And it basically puts that up against a national average. It effectively says, hey, if 100 is that average number, let's say the spending for this one industry is in the 70s, that means it's probably weaker in this area. Whereas if it's over 100 or close to 100, then it's relative to what you would find in other places. And the important piece there is it's just a number. It's going to give you an idea of how to make that decision moving forward, but it shouldn't be, this is telling me I 100% should make this decision. There's so many other factors that go into, is the business going to be successful?
Right. And then looking at the demographic, the income reports, those kind of things. With a coffee shop, I think that we may have reached the end of where that one's relative, but for certain businesses, that is going to make a bigger distinction. Why is that something that people should consider? And I asked this in case groups, when we talk about perfect referrals, when we talk about you're giving your elevator pitch, when you're looking for a client, it is so much better to have a specific idea of that client than going everyone. Because yes, we'd all love if everyone shopped at our store, but that's not the best way that you go about marketing. Kind of talk to me about that.
Well, even from just a planning perspective, when we're working on something, again, going back to it, if we say, we're going to try and tackle this plan to serve everyone, it's not going to be as effective. Again, how specific can we be to make sure that we're reaching that specific need or that specific audience, that specific client? Something that you just touched upon that I want to get into is that you said referral. And again, something that from my background is really important, and I think everyone should take with them, is being resourceful. How we're actually using that. The case group is a great example because they're saying, I'm not just going to make decisions myself in a silo. How am I actually going to get a better understanding and support from others? The videos that you're putting together for the Business 101 series effectively is doing just that. You're bringing in different people with different backgrounds and expertise to try to help make sure that your audience is being more resourceful as a small business or as a business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot in there that it's the tough thing. I feel like I say this pretty often of, we hear it's either going to be time or money. And unfortunately, I just don't think that's the case. I think it's time and money in everything that you're going to do. And being resourceful is going to be being able to maximize the amount of what you're getting out of that money and time being spent, looking in the right places, getting those right partners. When you're looking at the referral, how does that impact a certain business? Because I think about it with a coffee shop. You've got one of two people who's going to walk into a coffee shop. You either have someone who is looking for coffee, has searched for coffee, and is coming to your location, or you've got someone who is walking by or driving by on the street and sees your location. How do you factor that into your planning process of how am I doing my research of where I'm going to be?
I think it's really going to depend on the business model you decide to set up and honestly what you're willing to put, again, the time and money into. If you're going to decide to be a store-facing coffee shop, you've probably put more money into rent than you would, as opposed to if you just want to be somewhere off the beaten path, but you want people to find you, you're probably going to put more into marketing. That right there already is kind of informing where you're going to have to, build your business plan for the type of model you want to succeed in.
Mm-hmm. And it's so hard. I mean, even right now where we're talking to business owners of all kinds, if we were be able to look at you and say, oh, you're this business type, we could get a little bit more specific. That's kind of going back to that importance of making sure you've got your target clients, all of that. And those are things that as we talk with the SBDC about building that business plan, we'll get into a little bit more. So coming back to there's one other of these reports that we want to look at, and it's that business summary report. So we've already kind of talked about the market report and seeing that breakdown. We've talked about the income and seeing how that kind of fits into your demographic. With the business summary, what is that kind of information looking at in general?
Really, the business summary report, let's just, for a geographical place, what I did for the business summary is I pulled one for Christiansburg and Blacksburg. Effectively, what I was able to do then was look at, one, just how many businesses are in the area. And then again, it breaks it down by industry. So for construction, for retail, for food and beverage, those other pieces, again, it just gives you numbers to understand, okay, what does this area look like? What is my potential competition? And having an understanding of that will help you make the decision, should I go to this location or should I go somewhere else? It just helps give you an idea beyond just the word of mouth and you talking to your neighbor to say, hey, what does this look like? Which I think is just as valuable, but it's just another additional piece of information to take in there.
I also want to say, this may be me feeling this way, but I'm a big believer in competition being collaborative, not fully against one another. Competition drives revenue. Let's go back to that example I mentioned earlier of the Burger King versus McDonald's. They're direct competitors, but by doing that planning of being next to one another, they are helping each other out. So it's not always a me or them situation. Sometimes it's me and them in order to keep that moving.
I actually want to get into something. Again, I keep hearing words and I'm like, oh, this is a great thing to jump off of, is you said collaboration and competition. For the New River Valley region in Montgomery County being a part of that, what we've been told by several other, planning district commissions that isn't wholly unique to us, but something that we really benefit from is that collaborative piece. Again, there's healthy competition, but the fact that we're also collaborative and trying to actually support one another is just one great reason why, if you haven't started a business in the area, you should in the New River Valley. And if you have, then you're really fortunate to have done so.
Mm-hmm. And we've got that collaboration between like organizations like our own, but also you can come to the chamber and you can see a lot of businesses that are direct competitors that are talking about strategy, that are helping one another, because they understand when you kind of get back to that target client, you are not always going to be the exact this or that. There are ways that you're going to, even with some of our mortgage officers, they may not be able to refer to someone else that is in a bank because they would be fired. Understand that completely. But then when the situation comes up of, our bank doesn't do this, we can't do that at all, you still have those avenues to find others that can. And I think that's really important for a business owner, of just seeing what are the potential issues, what are the potential things that I cannot do, and how can I find someone to help? Because if you've got a client that trusts you and you go, I can't do this, but I have someone that can, they're going to appreciate you a lot more than if you're just like, I can't do it. I mean, you got to have that relationship. So speaking of banks and kind of going off of that piece, one, funding sources can be few and far between, but also they can be abundant when you're looking in the right places. Talk to me a little bit about the things that the Regional Commission either has or organizations that you partner with that have things that can help businesses with their funding beyond necessarily going to a bank. Which is still a good option. Many of our great bank members, not saying that, but like sometimes that's not an option for a new business owner. What are some of those other possibilities?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that piece because the New River Valley Regional Commission has a revolving loan fund. The way that was built is it's a fund of roughly 5 to 25,000, depending on the size of your project, of relatively low interest rates. I think pre-pandemic, they were extremely competitive against banks because it was a separate option. Now it's more in line with what banks are able to offer. And something to mention again is, the bank may not be the best fit, but also this revolving loan fund may be something that helps with that gap financing. It may be, the bank is able to provide this much of the loan. We just need a little bit more for what our project and our vision is able to achieve. That's something where the regional commission and the revolving loan fund would be able to come in. Again, it's important. It's sometimes used separately, but really we want to be working with our banks and others to help amplify that capital and those efforts that you as a business are trying to put together. With the regional revolving loan fund, again, 5 to 25,000, relatively low interest rates. The focus there is, how's it going to support job retention and job growth? When you, for example, if you put in a pre-application and say, hey, I'd love to go for this thing. Something that's important to know, again, working with banks and other financing options, we can only fund up to 90% of the project. So if you're like, hey, I need 10,000 for this dream. Well, we can potentially help you with up to 9,000 of that, but we want to see that you've got that other 1,000 from other sources. It helps with buying, and it helps that collaborative piece, making sure that you're not trying to put all your eggs in one basket to achieve something.
And I think that's something, again, the next episode where we're talking with the SBDC about building the business plan, that goes a long way when you're looking at some of this funding and making sure you are building for the correct amount of funding. Because I know I am someone that I'm easy to get an idea and I'm like, oh, it's only going to cost this. But then I don't factor in rent, labor, all of those things. So that's something we'll talk about more and look at. But beyond the revolving loan fund, are there any other resources that you know of or that people can access that you can speak on?
Yeah, directly from Montgomery County Economic Development also has their version of revolving loan fund. I believe it may be specific to industry. The important piece there is to know that, hey, am I reaching out to others that may have these opportunities for me? Not everything can be grants. It may be loans, but are you reaching out to your economic development organization for your area, or again, your local governments, even just to reach out and say, hey, what resources, what funding, what things do we have available? Because just getting an idea of what the picture is going to help you with either starting or growing your business.
All right. And with those, I'm going to focus more on the revolving loan fund because regional commission, reach out to Montgomery County Economic Development as far as the specifics for this for them. What are things that people should be putting together for the revolving loan fund to make sure that, hey, I've got good information, I've done as much of my legwork as I can so that when they come to you, you know that they're ready?
Yeah. That's a great question to ask, because when people first reach out, they go, oh, I'd love to get the support. On our end, what we have to do, again, is make sure that we're supporting a business plan that is strong. So things that you typically would find for a bank loan, you're probably going to find here in our application as well. So do I have a business plan? If you're an existing business, do you have your profit and loss statements, or do you expect a cash flow for the next 2 years? If you're starting your business, you're still going to need projections of those things as well. You're going to need to be registered in the towns and the counties that you work in. You're going to need to be registered at the state level if you need an LLC or those other pieces, things that make sure to validate the business and help us give an understanding of effectively what we're trying to give money towards supporting. And then the other piece with that is most loans require capitalization. So effectively, in a worst case scenario, how are we going to make sure to support this loan if something happens? If I'm not able to make my payments enough, what are the ways that we're able to actually make sure that we're paying off this loan? Again, the word here is revolving loan fund. It can't revolve if we're not putting money back into it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. As some of this, I also want to point out, make sure that you are looking on our website for all of the things that we've got here at the Chamber, because some of that you may not know how to do, and that's perfectly fine. That is why this is the Business 101 series. That's why we've got some of our small business workshops, our lunch and learns. A lot of those programs are focused on getting that education to you. If leaving this episode, you have any questions that you'd like Leo to answer, please send those along to me, marketing@montgomerycc.org. I can get that funneled along, and then we can kind of try and answer as we can. If you've got any questions, topics you'd like to hear in the future, same thing, reach out to marketing@montgomerycc.org. Those are things that we can work on. When you're making content like this, it's often, we're recording right now in February. This is not coming out in February. So that might be a delay in some of the things that we can do, but we want to hear from our members and want to hear from our businesses about what you need. So all of that being said, any final parting thoughts or wisdom you want to leave those listening?
Yeah. First, I'll just wrap up briefly with that loan side of it. If you're reaching out for that opportunity and it may end up being that, hey, right now is just not the right time, it may not be the right fit in that moment. The idea is, how am I being resourceful and using all the pieces that you just mentioned to get myself in that right place so that I then can go after those opportunities and those loans and those other pieces? Again, what are we doing to build the business? So I don't like to tell people, no, this isn't right for you. This isn't right now. How can we get you there?
I appreciate you being here. Thank you for all of that information. Again, if you have any more questions, please send those along to me at montgomerycc.org. Feel free to look up information about the New River Valley Regional Commission. But again, go back and talk to some of those partners, the SBDC, the town of Christiansburg, town of Blacksburg, the small business support that we have there, because they're going to be the resources that can most tie in to the regional commission and get you that information. Everyone, please make sure you like, download, subscribe, all of those things so that you see any things that's going on with us. You'll get access to new information, like when we post small business workshops, lunch and learns, when we're able to post eggs and issues. All of that information, you'll get a notification for those. In the meantime, everyone, please go out, make sure you invest, connect, engage, and prosper.